Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Today is Friday, August 2nd. I was just uploading this video. It's only 40% upload. I started uploading it last night, the last video I made, which is almost 4 hours. 2024, the last Olympics, not hiding Biden. Trump goes full Trump and desperate Kamala. So that video is just packed with stuff, and I wanted to get the most out of that video as possible, and it's very long. It's going to take a couple people maybe a couple days to watch it. So I'll probably release the next video on Sunday or Monday. This video here. But anyways, you're watching it whenever you're watching it. And so just a brief introduction. Of course, I have to always say this stuff now about the shadow banning, and YouTube's now recommending my stuff a little bit more and notifying people a little bit more, and it's good for people to let YouTube know, like the who's and here's a who. We are here. We are here. We are here. I'd play that meme here, but I'm too lazy to go find it. But anyways, the whole thing. The subscribe, resubscribe, notifications, membership program, leaving comments, doing anything possible, sharing the videos, doing things that would make YouTube believe that you are still interested in these videos. And so there's that. And so I just want to say this, this idea that a person who agrees with you is a good person and can be trusted, right? And on the internet, and certainly in politics, that does not exist. And even in your life, because you might have similar beliefs. Like, people put more weight into beliefs than they should. It's just something that I've, seen over and over again these past so many years. That, it's somebody's beliefs, just because they agree with you or whatever it is, right? They have similar beliefs or shared beliefs doesn't mean they're a good person. And those things are not, someone could have the exact same beliefs you have and be a horrible person, a rotten person, right? And everybody is projecting out something. Like, everyone's an actor and actress, especially now with social media. But people learn how to, become, they have their outward personality, which they manifest for, whatever it is. And in terms of the way they treat other people, the way that they, appear. The difference between someone on a first date and after 10 years of marriage, right? You can see a significant difference. People, when they first meet you, are way nicer, way whatever it is, right? Or sometimes not. Sometimes people are really gruff when you go to meet them, and then later on you realize they have a really soft heart. So, none of these things can be believed. And because people don't even know themselves, right? I was talking about self-love and how that's not really possible because, what people consider love is egotistical things like, saying nice things or whatever it is, right? Things that bolster your ego, things your ego wants you to hear. If someone's saying things that helps your ego, you think they're being loving, right? But they could just be scamming you, right? Like, there's no, you have to see that is there a genuine feeling there, right? Is the person feeling love or giving you love, right? The energy. It's an energy, not a, not an outward behavior. Do you feel loved, right? That's what, do you feel it? It's a feeling. And so everything's just fake is what I'm saying. Like, everything's freaking fake. And the problem that people have, and we saw this with Obama, Obama was supposed to be this human rights guy. And he won a Nobel Peace Prize, but he was worse on wars than George W. Bush. Like, he did more damage to the Middle East and these other countries, and then whistleblowers. He was horrible. Like, even though he appeared to be some kind of liberal human rights guy, he was liberal and a Democrat and very diverse. He came from a diverse background. He had Asian influences. He was biracial. And he was horrible. Like, he was like worse than the Republicans in terms of the wars and the stuff that he did. And he was really hard on whistleblowers. Like, anybody speaking the truth to power, he was like the worst on whistleblowers president of like all time. And so I made a comment back then that the liberals who were, human rights people took their foot off the gas because they thought Obama, they were convinced he has this. I got this, right? And the same thing happened with Trump. Like when Trump became elected, a lot of the right-wing truthers and the conservatives, they relaxed and they said Trump will protect us, and he didn't. And they pushed more of the agenda. So this is always what happens, right? Because you're pacified. The right will be pacified, the Trumpers will be pacified, and then the liberals will push their agenda because they'll be outraged that Trump got elected again. And they already have a negative feeling about the Trump voters, like you're not even human beings to them. You're, the filth, racist filth, right? And with Trump, like I was going to say this in my last video, the guy, white supremacists, usually extreme people, like in the truth community, people can never be good enough for us, right? Like a candidate would never be good enough for a real truther, even though the candidate would do enough or just have some kind of, little bit, like, enough so as much as they could, right? And like white supremacists would, in most cases, never embrace a candidate, any kind of really radical racist group. But they've embraced Trump. Like that shows you how bad Trump is, right? Because, he just won't condemn them. And he, so, I mean, it's bad. And it's because Trump anybody who likes Trump, anybody says nice things about him, that's all that matters to him, whatever the groups are. He didn't really condemn the Cubies, and he's cultivated all these negative things that are, causing a real problem, like for him. And I mean, in terms of the election, like if he didn't do all that stuff, if he didn't, pacify these groups or, at least not, come out against them in some way, he would, this is what my wife's friend said in 2020, that she saw Trump, he just should have drawn a line in the sand. And she was a big Trumper, and she was bummed, and she knew that he was costing himself the election by cultivating a relationship with these extreme groups, by just, not denying it or not, pushing back against it in any way, just like with this Agenda 2025, right? But Trump will turn on all those people if they turn on him, or if it suits him, he just does that. He doesn't have loyalty. He did this with all these people, the people he surrounded himself with. And so, when you're looking at not just politicians, but people on the internet and truthers or whatever it is, you don't know what kind of people they are, right? They might agree with you. They might say things that you like or whatever, but you don't know what kind of person they are, right? And it's sad to say that you always have to assume the worst. I mean, this time in history, you have to assume the worst about people because people are weak, right? We're all weak. We're weaker than we should be. Weaker than probably any time in history. We've been made weak by our modern day lifestyle, and we didn't get the proper training. We're not living natural human lives, especially these younger generations. They have no substance at all. They're not reading the literature that we had when we were, even the literature might have sucked in terms of, it was hard to read and not very, I mean, some of it was better than others, right? Just, I'm talking about the education in general. And then they didn't get any of the character quality things that you might get from Sunday school, catechism or whatever it is that you would go to. I mean, as bad as the religion is, like talks about our religion being so, again, this is another thing about people's beliefs. Just because somebody talks about Jesus and God doesn't mean they're spiritual. Doesn't mean that they're really godly people. Like we've seen this with scammer reverends and, these flim-flam artists and stuff, right? These fake, mega church things, right? That are all money-based. I mean, it's, everything is, you are what you are, right? And just because people can paint a picture of something else and create an illusion doesn't mean they are that, right? And so, in the run-up to this video, that's just something for people to consider, whether it's Trump or, Kamala Harris. You have no idea what they're going to do because they don't believe in anything, right? They're not there with some visionary idea of the way the world could be, and they're clear on their beliefs, and they share your beliefs. They say they believe in things, and they do until it's not, until it's inconvenient for them to do that, right? And then they don't anymore. And whatever they say, politicians, it doesn't mean that they're going to deliver, and oftentimes it's the opposite. Whatever they say they're going to do, like Obama said he was going to, I mean, they're pushing Obama. He won 2 Nobel Peace Prizes, I think, right? At least one of them. And he was one of the worst war, very aggressive, you know, and all these things that he did globally. And he was supposed to be a man of the world, the way he said Islam, he had the way he said things because of his Indonesian background and things. And yet he was one of the worst. He was like a right wing, he was like one of those neocons. And the liberals just didn't fight back against it because they just thought he could trust him. And the same thing with Trump, right? Conservatives are feeling the same way. And so just because somebody's elected or whatever the political winds that blow in doesn't mean it's going to manifest into policies and, intentions that are going to reflect what the voters voted you in for, right? And so, preparing for that either way, that there's all the paths are leading towards, the end of this system, the end of the, our economic system. And it'll happen quick when it happens. Like all of a sudden everything will disappear and there'll be, just like with the lockdown and COVID. And right now, Israel has killed that guy in Iran, the so-called Hamas leader. And he, Iran's going after Israel, and it's going to escalate, and this could be it, right? Just like even now. This can just escalate by the time 2025 arrives and whatever they're swearing in the new president. I mean, what better time to strike anyway when everyone knows that we have a mentally incompetent president? And so there's going to be they're not hiding Biden away, which is great because, we're going to get to that, but we're going to have a Biden watch, right? Because he's deteriorating really quickly, right? I mean, whatever he's got is just, it's getting worse on like a weekly basis. And they're not going to hide him away. So that's, that's a gift that I didn't know I was going to get, right? I mean, I didn't get them anything. But anyways, like we're going to have some of that. And, Kamala still is pushing, all as she's going out there, she's going to these African-American events, black people events. And that means that she doesn't have that. She doesn't have that demographic yet. So this is over. The election's over. She doesn't have the African-American demographic. Like that's what she's a person of color. And that's her whole thing. If she doesn't have that, then, it's over. Like she's trying to win those. It's only 3 months till the election. And so I think that all this stuff that's happened, all the things that they're saying is just, they all know this is over. That Trump's going to be your president, and that's not a good thing. Like, it's not that Trump's, people should be very wary of why they picked Trump a second time. The guy's had a 12-year span now where he's the dominant figure in American culture. That everything revolves around Trump for 12 years. That's what it'll be. And it's not been a great 12 years. It's the first 8 years have sucked, and the last 4 years are going to be worse. All right, so let's get into it here. Some more Band-Aid Gate. It's all coming here. So I'm going to start off with what I have today, and then I'll just add stuff until I feel like the other videos, run its course, because, again, it's so long, and it might take days for people to watch it, but it's packed full of stuff, right? And there's this Olympic debacle where, this whole thing I said years ago about just let it happen, where I said when biological men started to compete in sports, that feminist women and, the LGBTQ, the lesbian women and feminist women and, these who often, there's a high number of lesbian women in sports, when they start getting replaced by biological men. And, Kamala Harris, like, what are you going to do to stand up for biological women, right? Like, she's going to be on the hot seat for this at some point, whatever. Because, at some point the liberals are going to be like, wait, this isn't really liberal women, feminist women. I realize this isn't good for us, right? And this boxer thing is just a start. I said years ago, just let it happen. Let it run its course. Put biological men in to women's sports. Have women's sports be all biological men, right? Like, see how that plays out. At some point, the women will realize that they got screwed, right? That this is, this movement isn't helping them. Have biological men win Women of the Year. Like, that's, just let it happen, right? Biological men, women winning Women of the Year. Have the first woman president be a biological man. And just let's see how, the liberals and the feminists, how long it takes them to figure out that this is not working for them, right? Like it's, just let it happen. And so, I talked about that like 2 years ago, and then YouTube shut me down on it. But I was like, whatever, it's still just, the principle is there. I knew it was going to come. So there's a lot of things that I had, was waiting to see that I was like, all right, this is going to be great when it actually unfolds, are unfolding right frickin' now. A lot of stuff's unfolding right now. Like Trump has been exposed as a crisis actor. Jojo Magoo is, we're going to have a Jojo Magoo watch because he's deteriorating fast and he's still president. And they ran an ad for him. I was watching maybe the Olympics or the news this morning, something, and they ran an ad for Jojo for like all the stuff he did for the environment, and he's not running for president. And I'm like, why did they have a political ad for this guy? And so I don't know if they're still trying to save his reputation or legacy, and so there's that. Kamala Kamala was a time bomb for the Democratic Party. There was going to be a time that they were going to have to deal with the fact that Kamala sucks. And she's sucking right now, and it's good. And then all the stuff to do with the just let it happen thing. So all these things are coming to which is good and bad, because a lot of things get resolved before the end of something, right? It's like somebody's dying, and all these things come to the surface and have to be resolved. It's like people say, get your affairs in order. This is getting your affairs in order before the collapse of the system. So it's, good and bad. But as long as the system's still going and we have all the benefits of the system and there's real shit happening out there, it's a wonderful thing. It's a good time. We're like in the sweet spot right now. Okay, so let's start here with the female boxer thing. It's this thing, I don't know.
We have some quick replays of the very short-lived action in the women's welterweight bout there between Angela Carini and Iman Khalif.
Iman, this woman's name is Iman. This woman boxer, his name is literally Iman. This is unjust. Taking these shots from a dude, that dude there. Dude's sitting there. Crying after the news conference. Here, IOC Iman Khalif position in Olympics boxing gender controversy. They defend it. They're sticking with this dude below the belt. And then all of it here, right? So this Italian woman is crying. This dude's smirking over here. At some point, Iman's going to grope her. This female boxer named Iman is going to grope this woman here. That dude just patted her on the bosom. And so slow motion here. So Iman getting busy there. A little grope in there. This is sickening. This travesty doesn't matter what you believe. This is wrong and dangerous. Jake Paul getting into the action here. So, the female Italian boxer doesn't want to congratulate Iman. So Iman taps her on the bosom there. And then starts crying. Comes over, tries to comfort her. This is like a domestic abuse situation. Not that I'm laughing at it, but, pats her on the back, right? And so, she might not think this way, obviously, but this is going to make her a lot more of a hero and famous than, winning the gold. Because this is a just let it happen moment, and it's just going to keep on getting worse. And, at some point, people are going to rebel.
History. It happened earlier today in France, and a major controversy, too, has now erupted out of Paris. An Algerian boxer shown in the red uniform who failed a gender eligibility test last year has now won an opening fight after only 46 seconds. Her opponent breaking down in tears, calling it, quote, unjust. Greg Palcott picks it up from London with...
So, Fox is covering it, of course. Fears Iran will hit Israel on 5 fronts at any moment in revenge for assassination of Hamas boss Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. And so the coverage here is U.S. redeploying forces protect Israel from Iran retaliation. Iran is going to retaliate. And it's just how big the retaliation is going to be and what that means for, an upcoming war, which Israel is, believing that America will end up fighting, which will be, Russia has a treaty with Israel. So this is World War III stuff that's about to unfold. And it is. Whether it's this time, it's escalating. So if it isn't this time, it's the next time. So one of the interesting things in my last video, this is Megan Thee Stallion. This is Kamala Harris's event with Megan Thee Stallion. And having rap artists come there in the beginning is good for her in terms of bringing the energy up, right? It's good for her in terms of this event and how it plays with the crowd when they're showing you clips of it. Me. That's one of the problems with rap music. It's just too braggadocious. I'm a hot girl. That's what she said. She has to tell people that. And I said this before. The swing states are primarily about, somewhat conservative white people who are not into Megan Thee Stallion, right? Now, they're trying to bring in the youth. And the youth is always... they say they might vote, but something could happen that day. The youth is not reliable. And their big thing is to get the youth because they can't get that group of people that Joe Biden got. Because Joe Biden, Republicans liked him. He was a real centrist. And they were going to paint Kamala as a liberal who was more liberal than Bernie Sanders. And so she's going to lose all those states like the Michigans and the Ohios and the Pennsylvanias and these states where there's, rural white voters who are there, who are, I don't want to say racist, but they're not. They don't like Megan Thee Stallion. They don't want to see this kind of shit, right? And so it helps her like immediately in terms of the energy of her rallies. It might help her a little bit with the youth. But like I said, if she doesn't have the African American vote sewed up, then where does she go from there? Because women don't like her either, right? Like the feminist women will vote for her, but the more she talks, the more they're not going to like her. I guess she started twerking here at some point. And so this is, they're going to show this. This is going to be shown. Like I'm seeing it, right? And so they're pushing this, and Trump is going to use this stuff, right, to trigger white people who are, somewhat conservative, and they don't dig this, right? And even, older people, like just not even, people of color who aren't, digging this, right? Because it's just, this is the New York Post is posting this. So her bringing in a rap group, a couple of rap acts, brings the energy up, but it's divisive, right? It's going to push people away. And so is her sassiness thing here.
Believe deeply that America's true and full history must be acknowledged and honored. It was Sheila Jackson Lee whose bill made Juneteenth a federal holiday.
So, she's a poser, right? Like, she doesn't believe in any of this stuff. She believes, she married a white Jewish guy, right? She's, she's part of all these different groups. And which group does she believe in, right? If she, she married a Jewish guy, is she going to be there for Israel, right? Is she's, she's got some Jamaican heritage. Is she going to be there for the black population? She's going to be there for the Indian population, right? That's just based in her genetic makeup. But what about what she believes? She seems to be liberal, but she locked up a lot of black people for marijuana use when she was, district attorney. She's about Kamala, just like Trump's about Trump, right? And so she's a poser. And, she's just like Trump's a poser. They're all, politicians are, the biggest posers.
As a United States Senator, I was proud to co-sponsor, and then as Vice President, it was my honor with the
She's thinking she was president then.
President.
Woo! You were really the president, that old fuck did. He didn't know what he was doing. Woo!
It was my honor. It was my honor with our President Joe Biden to stand beside Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee as our president signed her bill into law. As a leader.
So that was a, little moment of truth for Kamala.
In one of the most astoundingly phony moments in her speech last night, Kamala Harris bragged that, quote, "I will proudly put my record against Donald Trump's any day of the week. I will put it against Donald Trump." This got one of the worst records in anywhere. Well, Kamala, let's go. Challenge accepted. Are you ready? Let's compare our record point by point.
So at the time, I taped this on Friday, August 3rd, 2nd. But today's Saturday, August 3rd, and now he's come out and he's given a counter proposal for the debate. Woo!
I love that chart.
Never surrender.
I'm going to sleep with that chart for the rest of my life, that chart. That chart.
Never surrender.
I love that chart.
He loves that chart.
I'm going to sleep with that chart for the rest of my life, that chart. That chart.
Because Melania doesn't want any party. Melania doesn't want any of that, Look at this dude's questionable facial hair.
The amazing thing, the people that operate the computers and all the brilliant equipment we have backstage, she said to me, she's great, she's great. She should come out. Just tell her to come out here for a second. Quick, 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 quick. You got to get her out. She's never done this before.
He's just milking this fake-ass thing so badly.
She saved my life, in a sense. I said, you saved my life. Here she is. Wow.
Woo!
Wow.
Hi.
No, she's a computer genius.
That's so weird.
She saved my life. No. So, the story is, but that chart, I only used it.
What about God? Like, where's God in all this? Is it the computer girl? Is it Johnson who gave you the chart? Is it, the chart? Is the chart that saved Trump's life? He's
Probably less than 20% of the time. So in other words, we do the rallies and stuff. Sometimes I'll pull it down, sometimes I won't, because I do things a little bit at random while I'm up here. Hello, look at a big fella back there. But I do things a little bit at random. But two things about the chart. It's always on my left, which means I'm gone. It's always on my left. If it was on my left, I have Mr. Governor, Mr. Future Governor. I have no chance, because it would have been perfect hit.
When this election started, I thought it would be mostly a...
It's just pathetic, right? It's just bad. Okay, so here's a Jojo Biden, and I think I have more coming for Jojo Magoo. So we had this big thing where they released hostages, prisoner swap from Russia, which, they think is a big deal, but Russia's, like I said, has treaties and they have alliances with Iran, and this thing's going south quickly. But anyways, he's coming here and doing this.
This is a very good afternoon. A very good afternoon. Today we're bringing home Paul, Evan, Alsu, Vladimir. 3 American citizens and 1 American green card holder. All 4 have been imprisoned unjustly in Russia. Paul for nearly 6 years. Vladimir since 2022, Evan, since March of 2023.
He is deteriorating really quickly. Like, you can see a big difference. He's slurring his speech more. He's slowing down, and they're not even showing him walking. I mean, I guess there is, since I have another clip of him somewhere. I've got to find that one. But he is deteriorating fast.
3, and also since October of 2023. Russian authorities arrested them, convicted them in show trials, and sentenced them to long prison terms with absolutely no legitimate reason whatsoever, none. Paul, a former Marine, was in Russia for a wedding. Evan, a journalist with a Russian in Russia, was in Russia, signed by the Wall Street Journal. Also a journalist, was in Russia to see family.
He's reading. Like, he's reading this, and he can't do it.
All 3 falsely accused of being spies. And Vladimir was a Russian citizen by birth and holds an American green card. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and was a pallbearer of my friend John McCain's funeral with me. He spoke out against Putin's regime. And for that, he was convicted of treason. And now, their brutal ordeal is over, and they're free. Moments ago, the families and I were able to speak to them on the telephone from the Oval Office. They're out of Russia. Earlier today, they were flown to Turkey, and soon they'll be wheels up on their way home to see their families. This is an incredible relief for all the family members gathered here. It's relief to the friends.
See, this is legacy. They're trying to preserve his legacy. They want to have some big moments. I guess Trump insulted his thing. I think I have that clip. But he's just deteriorating. Like, you can see it. He's a decline. He's worse than he was during the debate. And the debate shocked America. Like, it was a stunner for many people. And it's only been like a month since the debate, so a little over a month, and he's gotten worse. And he's going to continue to deteriorate. Now he's not campaigning, so, like, when you retire, when you see people retire, they fall apart. Like, this happened to my dad. Many people have seen this. Because you don't have any goals in work and, any kind of routine, and people just slide away. Their work keeps them going. It's why, like, farming for me, and, this is, when you're a farmer, you just never stop and doing that kind of work. And you just, your body's not as good, but you find some way around it and you keep on chugging along, right? And so, this is him realizing that he's basically retired and it's over. And then, all the stuff that he was hoping to achieve as another term as president, it's all gone, right? It's over for him. Like, he can't, he's done. And so, and they're not hiding him away because they still want to have him have his moments, right?
I'm praying for this day for a long time. The deal that made this possible was a feat of diplomacy and friendship. Friendship. Multiple countries helped get this done.
Now, he's still able to speak. Like, he still has grasp of the situation. Like, he has his senior moments, but pretty soon he's going to be getting lost. And, they might hide him away at that point, but there'll probably be a couple of big ones coming. Like, senior moments and just, and, like, they probably have they have a system of, medications and, they get him ready for these brief periods of time where he appears in public. But behind closed doors, they're going to see more and more of the slippage. At some point, he's going to have these moments of slippage right in front of everybody. Like, I can't wait. Like, this is, don't take this away from me. Like, just keep on rolling him out here because I thought you guys were going to hide him, but they're not. He's going to give a convention speech, and we'll see because the energy of the crowd and all that. He'll, he's going to have to speak at the convention, endorse Kamala. And there's going to be that stuff. And, we'll just hope. So, see, look at his face, really his affect. Like, this is the thing. And the guy, Parkinson's doctor was talking about this, right? His inability to turn, like he has to turn very mechanically. The way the gait of his walk and the expression on his face. And, there's brain deterioration. And so, like, it's like when alcohol, one of the first things when you drink alcohol, it affects is the part of the brain that helps you self-perceive, right? And so you know how you get when you get drunk. I mean, you get stupider, and you have various types of these neurotoxins that people take as self-medications that makes you, fall apart and not function as highly, right? And so, you know how you walk, like people don't walk and they stumble when they get drunk and things. And that's what's happened to his brain. And you can see it in his face here, all these things. And so this happened here.
President Trump has said repeatedly that he could have gotten the hostages out without giving anything in exchange. What do you say to that? What do you say to President Trump now, former president?
Why didn't he do it when he was president?
Sir, what did you
And so, like, he's just... Now, that was a kind of a coherent answer, but just the way he did it, like that was an answer, there was a comeback, and, whatever. It wasn't the worst thing. But his whole mannerisms, like he's gone, and it's not getting better. Like he's not getting younger, and so hopefully they just keep on rolling him out here. So I have a bunch of stuff here. This probably go on my other channel. I have to still figure a way to make a video there.
Welcome back. We get some brand new video just into Fox Weather to show you. Look at this: a Yellowstone geyser suddenly exploded, boiling water and rocks rained down, damaging a pedestrian boardwalk. This happened at the
people are saying run here. I had another clip. I just got, because it was on Instagram. But, things are getting apocalyptic all over the place. Woo! Woo! So Corey Feldman, the comeback king, I've gotten 6 or 7 different videos, mostly that one I already showed you with a guitar solo that he shows he's just, he's banging on the strings. He's not even playing any chords. But I've got a number of Corey Feldman sightings, so there's been a Corey Feldman resurgence.
Come on now.
Remember, Corey's not only an award-winning singer and songwriter, but he's also a choreographer. He's choreographed his own moves here. They're going to treat you like spit. I mean, the lyrics here, they're just incredible. He's a genius.
When you reach for the door, they're gonna close it. You're a beautiful soul, but no one knows it.
See, this is all talking about him being the comeback king. So all the things he said that he's been treated like spit, and he reaches for the door and they close it, and he's a beautiful soul, and nobody knows it. Look at Corey Feldman pumping himself up here.
We all have sadness, moments that we lost, where we must again would show them who it's for. Comeback king.
He's a comeback king. Where is he coming back from? Like, where is he coming back to, actually? We know where he's coming back from, but where to? Because to have a comeback, you have to come back to a level. You were on a level, and then you fell, and then you're coming back to that level. What level are you looking at, Corey? Because you always sucked. You were like the worst. We stayed in a hotel, had a baby convention that the babies were all fake. So these are women are carrying around baby dolls. So they have a convention where these women all bring their babies, but they're plastic. And so look at them, and they're all like, this is a high school class project thing that they do, or sometimes they use an egg, where the high school kids have to take care of a doll, and just to get a sense of what it's like to take care of a baby. But these are grown-ass women who are, for the majority of them, are obese, it appears to be. So I wonder what the correlation is there. But yeah, that happened. So this is, I don't know if I can't legitimize this thing, but it says that the Harris family owed 210 different slaves his guy Donald Harris. Donald Harris' ancestor Hamilton Brown owned sugar plantation in that area, right, in Jamaica. I'm a scientist who believes plants are conscious. Here are signs that prove they have intelligence. Well, of course, there's some level of consciousness in everything. The plant kingdom. And, we're totally dependent on the plant kingdom in every possible way. So anything you eat, if you eat meat, well, the meat you eat depends on the plant kingdom. And then, of course, oxygen every other way. But people disrespect plants, whatever. Like it's just... So this is Kamala's, I guess this is her whole thing here. Somehow this is her whole page. It's just to donate. If you come, this is KamalaHarris.com. So if you go to KamalaHarris.com, I just typed it in, KamalaHarris.com in the menu bar. It goes right to her donation page. There's nothing else there. There's Meet Kamala Harris, some other things here, take action. But they're, there's just no policy. There's nothing here about, like, what she believes and what she's going to do in terms of, it's just basically a donation page and a little, like, a blip of social media crap. So these are some ancient cave paintings in India. I've seen these. I showed you these before. There's all this cave art, and I have a whole collection of this in one of my folders, where they have all this stuff that's shows that there's aliens. Of course, there's ancient paintings from Europe, like oil paintings with spaceships on it, and there's artifacts that are spaceships and alien astronauts and things like this. And so this is a part of our history that our government's been covering up. So this is a thing called Welcome to Search Labs, Discover AI and More. It is Google Search Labs. And I guess this is their search function here. I don't want to turn it on. And you could be a part of the AI experiment with Google. Okay, so what you just watched was from yesterday, August 2nd. Today's August 3rd, Saturday, August 3rd. And we got a bunch more stuff here, like we always do. Okay, so I want to explain this whole thing I talk about where they give you left-right cover, right? Like if you watch CNN and MSNBC, most people will, people buy into that, whatever it is. But I don't know. Like those people are, can you even call those people, or do those people even have a pulse or consciousness? People could watch CNN and MSNBC and believe what they're saying, right? Like I don't even know, whatever. But if you watch them, you are going to want to vote for Trump, right? Because, or at least you're going to root against Kamala. Because it's just like Morning Joe particularly, but, all this stuff. And, that's what left-right cover is, right? Where they, they behave in such a way, like AOC behaves in such a way that it energizes the right. With Marjorie Taylor Greene behaving in such a way that she energizes the Democrats, right? That's left-right cover. And people don't understand that at all. Like, it's silly. Like, it's so easy to understand that there are movements out there that aren't meant for your side. They're meant to provoke the other side. And Trump is the biggest provoker out there. And so when Trump becomes president, the left is energized. And they push all kinds of stuff through. And so, we've seen this with every president. There's an opposite movement. And the party of the people who are the Republican people when Trump is elected, or the Democratic people when Biden or Obama were elected, they relax. And they're no longer, okay, we got our guy. And so I want to add to this. I'm editing here. And as much as politics is performative, right? It's a performance. The performance is for you, right? It's for you or me or, the people that actually vote or whatever it is, right? It's for the public. It's not for the media. It's not for each other. They're performing for you. Like they can all see through the bullshit because they're doing the same thing, right? I just got a clip from Trump where he's talking about not being nice anymore. And I'll show you this when that comes up. I'm going to have to put that clip somewhere in here. I've done the rest of these clips going forward. But this is all performance, right? All this is about performing to demographics of people, right? They find out what people want to hear and they present a performance, whether it's, speeches or with Trump's, fake shooting or whatever it might be. They present a performance, they stage and control as much of it as they can. And then they give you that performance to make you think that they're like you and to gain your support, whatever that means. Your money. I mean, that's the thing I call the show is a show for you. It's not a show for them, right? They know it's all bullshit. Like they know each, politician and actor, they all know it's fake. I mean, after a while, they start buying. Like Trump has bought into his own stuff where he thinks that these people love him, right? But he's like unlovable because everything he does is fake. He's presenting a fake caricature of himself that is based in what Republican people want to hear, what white people want to hear, white, conservative people want to hear. And then they fall for it. And he's like, "Oh, they love me." Well, they don't love you. You're a Muppet. You're a fake, performing actor telling them what they want you to hear. And they're thinking you're the second coming of Jesus, right? But you're not lovable, right? This is all performance. It's all performative. Along those lines, Kamala Harris reacts to winning the Democratic presidential nomination. Now, what a horrible, this is not news. This is CNN being completely fake news, right? Because she didn't win shit, right? Like she didn't win anything. She didn't win any election. Like making her sound like she was a winner. She's not a winner. I mean, she won the lotto. She didn't win an election. Like Biden picked her for whatever reason. He promised an African-American woman, a woman of color, and they chose Kamala. And, that was, he said he was going to pick a woman. He said he was going to pick a woman of color. And Kamala was, for them, the best choice. Partly because she was unelectable. And they knew Biden was senile, so it would be hard to say, let's get rid of him, the Democrats, if she was the alternative. But she won that. Like, she won that, not that she won, an election, not that she, any of these things. She's right now campaigning for, in areas where it's just these events for black people, right? She's trying to win the black vote. And that's scary for, her because, the Democrats, because she should have that black vote sewed up, right? I mean, in terms of, identity politics and things. Just like Trump has the white vote sewed up, like, in terms of the Republican, whatever, like hardcore Republican, whatever they are. I mean, this is, she should be bringing in other demographics and isn't, right? She's got the swagger. We'll get into that more. But she didn't win anything. She's not she'll probably lose this election going into it right now. Let's see this video here.
Vice President Kamala Harris has now earned enough delegate votes to become the Democratic nominee for president.
She didn't earn them, right? So she, Joe Biden withdrew because he was senile, and she covered up for him. And the Democratic Party and the delegates have said, all right, we'll accept her. Like earned is just a generous word. Like.
It is officially official ahead of the convention. There will be, of course, all of the fanfare. But this is it. This is the real count.
Yeah, the DNC chair, Jamie Harrison, announcing that on a call that is going on right now. We should remind viewers that delegates are actually voting online, and that's how they were able to go.
Okay, so, we are all disappointed, at least I am, that we didn't see the Democratic, cannibalistic, whatever was going on there, cannibalizing each other to get the nomination, because that would have been fun and interesting, right? But they didn't do that. And one reason they didn't do that is they don't think this is a good deal. I mean, Kamala has Joe Biden's team, and she's just running on Joe Biden's record, which is not the best thing for the Democrats. But she's running just like Joe Biden, unopposed, and she's being gifted this nomination without a democratic process. Joe Biden really didn't have a democratic process because he had a challenger in RFK Jr., and they wouldn't let that guy on the ballot. They wouldn't let the guy compete, right? So And, that's still a factor coming into the election, the RFK Jr. factor, whatever. In terms of, like, they're not even talking about him, but he'll take votes away from her. And right now she's losing. Like, she's, like, even with all the stuff about Trump running scared, the things that they're saying. But she's losing, right? And
through this process before the convention, let's go straight to CNN's David Chalian. David, this is history in the making. I mean, she is breaking a number of barriers, but also part of an unprecedented race for the White House.
No doubt about it. So it is the second female Democratic nominee.
So they're going in this thing with, they're limping into it because the other candidates don't want any part of that. Like, they would have to come up with their own campaign. They're, running against Biden's record, and they would get thrashed, right? That would be it for them. They would never run for president again. So there's not one other person that's like, oh, this looks like I could, any of these candidates, any of these potential people, they're all, they're in a bad, they're not willing to risk the, whatever it is. They're just letting her have this thing, right? Which means that they all think she's going to lose. And that they think if they ran, they would lose, right? Okay, so I want to stick this in here where I'm talking about her not deserving something, earning and deserving. Kamala Harris, because she did do something to deserve it, right? Which we'll get into here. Kamala Harris' much older lover gave her a BMW, a salary-boosting jobs. She gave him some jobs too. I mean, it was, quid pro quo. She climbed the Democratic Party ladder. So as a young prosecutor, Kamala Harris was gifted a BMW and lavished with trips to Paris and the Oscars by a much older lover who also jump-started her meteoric rise in California politics, which doesn't make sense because a meteor descends to Earth. Well, according to reports, it's a misused word. The current vice president, which of course now might end up being the proper usage, but a meteor crashes, it doesn't take off, right? It's not a rocket. It's it descends, it doesn't ascend. The current vice president famously had a relationship with Democratic Party kingmaker Willie Brown in 1994 when she was 29 and he was 60. So he was separated from his wife, but there was an affair rumored there beforehand, and when he was serving as Speaker of the California Assembly. Of course, over the course of the relationship, Brown gave Harris a BMW, traveled with him to Paris. She traveled with him to Paris, attended the Academy Awards, and even took him on a business trip to Boston, where he was meeting Donald Trump, according to a 2021 book, Kamala's Way in American Life by journalist Dean Moran. So this is a young Kamala Harris. She's just turning 30. She's dating somebody who's 60, right? And so, I'm in my 60s. I just turned 60, I don't know, 2 weeks, a month ago. So this is actually the anniversary day, August 3rd, 1993. I was 29 years old when I started the Sajmarg meditation. So I always remember this is a big day for me, like it's a historic thing in my life. And I think back to that time and all the things that have happened since, the 30 years, since that, 31 years, right, in 1993. So, I know the difference between 29 and 60, and it's substantial, So this is a weird relationship. This is like the girl dating Bill Belichick right now. And so this is what she was willing to do. She's got her choke chain on here, MK Ultra beta kit thing here. The relation is well known in San Francisco, with the Chronicle describing Harris as the speaker's new steady, his frequent companion. In November 1994, as his term speaker was ending, Brown appointed Harris, who was then working at the Alameda Country Club district office, to the California Medical Assistance Commission, a job which paid $72,000 a year and required attending monthly meetings. Brown 90 has also taken credit for helping Harris in her meteoric political rise. Well, he gave her a number of jobs. Yes, we dated. Yes, I may have influenced her career by appointing her to 2 state commissions when I was Assembly Speaker, and I certainly helped her with her first race for district attorney in San Francisco. So he, So she did do something, right? She knee padded it. she got, she did her knee pad thing, and it helped her. But they all do that. That's what I was going to say here. So every person that makes it to that level, makes it to a level of prominence politically or in sports or in, acting career, right, gets on their knees. You could all call them knee pads in one way or another, because they have to bow before a gatekeeper. Because I described this extensively when the whole sort of Harvey Weinstein thing was happening, and it happened with all these kids. There's a movie that came out, The Open Secret, about these kids and how they were abused by these Hollywood creeps. And on all these different levels, some of them were managers, like some of them were just low-level managers, some of them were, producers, guys who made movies like Harvey Weinstein, big money billionaires. Some of them were low-life managers who managed kids and things. But these creeps, these certain deviant personalities, realized that if they got into Hollywood and they became gatekeepers, and there's always gatekeepers, and all these, when there's positions of power, then you have gatekeepers, because they know that they're giving you access to something you want. And so all these young women who wanted to be starlets, the casting couch had to perform sexual favors, young boys, many of these guys were into boys, and then kids as well, right? And so that was the Hollywood. When you look at like the modeling industry or any of these things, right? These jobs and these careers that people desperately want, young people desperately want. And so it's a form of like human trafficking that these guys can come in and, be a party to that, right? They can have this, access to these kids and these young people. And so that's, one level of gatekeeper. Willie Brown, obviously the same thing, right? He, 60-year-old guy wanted, young women. Kamala, 30, still, I'm sure he's even younger at times, right? Trump, all these people. Trump bought the Miss USA pageant. Why do you think he did that, right? Being around all those young models, whatever it is, right? The stuff with Stormy Daniels, all these things, cheated on his wives. But before that, to get into the club, Donald Trump, you have to, go through a gatekeeper or a series of gatekeepers to get into the club. And they want your assurance that you're going to serve the beast. You have to kiss the ring. Think about this idea of getting on your knees and kissing the king's ring, right? Knee pads. And so, like, this is what it takes to get into these powerful positions or whatever, get to these access to these premium positions, right? You have to, prostitute yourself in one way or another. And you have to show to them and demonstrate to them more than anything else that you're not going to rock the boat. Like, that's anybody who has a microphone in front of them, there's this understanding that you're not going to go out and tell the truth. You're only going to speak in the terms of the very rare, narrow bandwidth that's allowed in terms of the so-called official story. But then with the Alex Jones and Donald Trump, when they realized the internet was becoming a place where there was going to be these alternative narratives about the official story, which everybody was into because they were much more compelling and much more truthful. Of course, there's a lot of lies and disinfo and a lot of BS out there, but it's still kind of more compelling than the official story. And so they needed some way to deal with that because they needed the internet, right? The internet was important, but the internet was also a place where truth was starting to circulate. And so they had Alex Jones and Trump represent these, bogus, fake truther kind of people who would say things that were not allowed to be said, and then, they would deal with them whichever way possible, right? But Trump was in on it, just like Alex Jones is in on it, right? They have to be, because they wouldn't be given the position they're given unless they've passed through a series of gatekeepers, and they're handled in some way. They have to be handled. They have to have some way of control. These is why I call them controllers. They don't, there's a reason I call them the controllers, because they have to control everything. When you're running a deception, when you're running a system, a whole global economic and social system, religious system, it has to be completely controlled. Like when you're going to use God in a way that's, the idea of God in a way that's, based in lies and deceptions in your religion or the religions, you have to have control because you don't want people connecting to God and seeing the truth, right? And that's very easy for people once they connect to God. They start seeing through the BS when they truly connect to God. And then the economic system, which is based in debt, you can't have that. The fact that wealth is the opposite of wealth. It's debt, right? People who are really wealthy have the ability to create more debt for themselves. Debt is being traded. The money itself is debt. And promises and things like this, promise to pay. The usury system. So that you can't have truth coming into that, right? And then every aspect of the rest of the system is an illusion. So you have to control it because the truth wants to come out. It naturally just wants to come out. So they've employed these controllers and gatekeepers and things. And if you give it a microphone, they have to control you. If you're going to talk to large numbers of people, they have to control you, right? We're talking to, these political figures. So they've all kissed the ring. They can all be called knee pads in their way, one way or another. And then for Trump to make it to the political sphere, he needed to be, need to pass through some gatekeepers and handlers. And for him, that's Israel. That's one of them, right? Which we now know, like, obviously. And then, of course, the stuff that goes with that, the Wall Street and the bankers, the banksters, who really love Trump, right? So he has to have his power brokers, even as a controlled so-called, a guy who's gone rogue. He's got his gatekeepers, right? So the nickname knee pads applies to all of them. The only difference is Trump has some talent, and this is not a reason to vote for him. Is that Trump can actually win a crowd. He can actually inspire enthusiasm. They're trying to create that with Kamala. Like, Kamala could never do that. People don't like Kamala. She's not likable, right? Whatever talent she has, it's not public speaking. I don't know what talent, we don't know what talent she had with this guy, right, that he jump-started her career for. But whatever talent she has, it ain't that, right? It isn't being a politician. Like, she wouldn't be elected on her own. Like, whatever she got in California, she was, whoever this Democrat is in most of their districts has an easy win. And so she was handpicked, and she ran basically unopposed. Nancy Pelosi and Feinstein, both longtime California Dems, they run unopposed every year. And so, like, do people like them there? Well, we don't know. Because there's no choice. There's no other choice. The Republican is not going to win. So it's only within their own party. Whoever they pick is given that position, right? So she's picked for senator, and I don't know what kind of primary she had, but she had more money and more, it's an unfair type of situation where she didn't have to be special. She didn't have to be somebody that was a political phenom. And Donald Trump, who no one took seriously at first, showed that he could win a crowd, that he could inspire enthusiasm, and he's willing to say anything and be anything because he doesn't really believe in what he says. And so that's the only difference. He deserves some of the, some of the credit for his political success. Where Kamala Harris, other than, her knee pad stuff and the stuff that she did to bow before these powerful people and maybe marrying the guy she married, right? And we'll show that the vice presidential pick that's her leading candidate, who's also a Jewish guy. We'll show that. So, she has her, things that she's done, right? To become the, person that, in terms of her status, but none of it's her talent, her political talent. None of it's her ability to connect with people and inspire them to vote for her. And now she's running on the we hate Trump. Like, everybody runs against Trump. They're relying on the hatred of Trump, like Trump's ability to create hatred, right? So they can't create large movements. Trump can create large movements. Trump can create large movements of dopey Republicans who, the cult of Trump. He also can create the hatred that provides the momentum for the Democratic Party to also win, right? So Trump is he's a person of a big personality, can do these things. But, he sucks. He's in many ways, I think it's worse that he'll be elected for the reasons I've said before. I'm not rooting for one thing or another, but I just know you can't root for Kamala. But in terms of Trump, I think they're handpicking him, which means that they have nefarious plans. If Trump gets a second presidency, it's because they're going to use him in ways that, this is going to be endgame stuff. It's going to be, last president kind of stuff, right? Last Olympics, last president, this, which is in line with the prophecies and predictions of what needs to happen in terms of the collapse of the system in the Sajmarg meditation that I do, which I'll, read those in the near future. But anyways, let's get back to it here.
Are people going to vote? And why aren't people voting? Are we too stuck to our phones? I mean, those are the things that keep me up. Because
they keep you up. You don't sleep. You're worried about that. You're lying in bed and worried about people voting for Kamala because it would be such a horrible alternative. Is that what you're saying? And why are you saying they're worried about the Republicans? You're saying, see, this is the thing. The Republicans vote. Like, they have their turnout, and their turnout is pretty much guaranteed. There's Trump haters, in the Republican Party. There's whatever it is. But they vote, and they, ultimately they'll hold their nose and vote for Trump if they don't like him, just because they don't want a Democrat. And they, Southern people, country people, Republican people vote. They'll vote for the American Idol. They'll vote for, any of these kind of shows like that, right? They vote. They turn out to vote. That's why country singers win. I've talked about that. But, Democrats often don't vote. Even ones who are, like, out there talking shit on the internet and, blogging about it and saying, they might, like, they're lazy, like, they might just, the day of the vote, like, they're too intellectual or too, whatever it is, right? Like, they'll talk about stuff, but, they have to get out the vote, right? They have more potential vote. A lot of the vote is they have to push for it, right? They have to remind people, like, as dumb as some as the Trump vote is, like, a lot of the Trumpers are just dumb people, like, stupid, right? But then there's some stupidity, like when you think about the real low consciousness Walmart people that are out there that, are just, they're just not smart and they're not capable and they're not motivated. Those people, like, you think, well, the Republicans of those people vote, right? Like, the deliverance people, like, you see in the movie Deliverance, right? You get those people, they get to vote. They'll go out and vote. Whereas you don't see that with the Democratic Party. That's why this whole controversy, about register and make it easy to vote and things like this. There's a battle how easy you can make it, so that you get people in.
because you don't have control over them. Mm-hmm. And you wonder.
So that keeps you up at night, that you don't have control over other people?
Where are we in this? Where are our hearts? What's going to happen in this next election? I am terrified about what could possibly happen because our leaders matter.
They do. They matter. They matter if their wife has a Johnson or not.
Who we select, who speaks for us, who holds that bully pulpit.
Exactly. Who holds that bully pulpit?
It affects us in ways that sometimes I think people take for granted. The fact that people think that government, does it really even do anything? And I'm like, oh my God, does government do everything for us? And we cannot take.
The government does everything for us.
This democracy for granted. And sometimes I worry that we do. Those are the things that keep me up. Are people going to?
So there it is, right? They keep her up. So here he is at the airport. And, more of a check-in. So this is
toughest call on this one for other countries. Because I asked them to do some things that were against their immediate self-interest. And really very difficult for them to do, particularly Germany and Slovenia. Slovenia came in at the last minute, and I tell you what, the chancellor was incredible. He was incredible.
So what's your message to
the Kamala sneaking up?
Other countries that may think that the Americans, their custody, unlawfully detaining them would be a good way to get something that they want from us?
Hey, look. That's been the case for all of history. My job is to make sure, number one, they don't get them. If they do, we get them back. I don't buy this idea that you're going to let these people rot in jail because other people may be captured. We will set out all the notifications to all the other countries, all our citizens, what countries not to go to, what to do, what not to do, and they got to pay attention. I got more work to do. So.
Madam Vice President, how do you feel? This is an extraordinary day, and I'm very thankful for our president and what he has done over his entire career, but in particular as it relates to these families and these individuals.
You're proud of the whole, everything about him. I'm proud of our president. You know, he's doing such a good job. Good job, Joe. Pat him on the frickin' head. Pat him on the frickin' head, Kamala. I want to see your head pat. Pat this old M&F on the head and say you're proud of him. Say good boy. Yeah, pat him on the head and say good boy, Jojo.
Individuals, what he has been able to do to bring the allies together on many issues, but in particular this one. This is just an extraordinary testament to the importance of having a president who understands the power of diplomacy and understands the strength that rests in understanding the significance of diplomacy and strengthening alliances. This is an incredible day.
She just talks gobbledygook, right? She said the same thing in a way that wasn't understandable a second time. So she just says, a president understands the power of diplomacy. But that second thing, so she says that, and then she says this.
But in particular this one, this is just an extraordinary testament to the importance of having a president who understands the power of diplomacy.
Okay, so there's your point. Explain your point.
And understands the strength that rests in understanding the significance of diplomacy and strengthening alliances. This is an incredible day.
The strength, what does that even mean, right? What are you talking about? It's just the first part was your point. And you stop talking about that and then make another point.
You can see it in the families, in their eyes and in their cries.
Your children was gone. It's like it's just gone.
A while ago. We got to make sure, we wanted to make sure everything was in place. And Slovenia made the right move at the right time. So anyway, look, it's time to trust. I mean it. I know everybody thinks I talk about the notion of relationships with foreign policy with other countries. Much of it, and you've heard me kid with Barack, all politics is personal. It matters. Other leaders trust you, you trust them, you get things done. And that's how this got done. A lot of help. Anyway, thank you.
How worried are you?
I'm very concerned about it. I had a very direct meeting with the Prime Minister today. And,
he's on the verge where he will no longer be able to understand people's questions, and he will no longer be able to pull from his brain the information. He has had his moments and slippage, but he's going to get to the point where his answers won't make any sense, and he'll look so lost and confused, and they don't got him walking here, but the way he walks and things like this, all that, his gait, people will be like, oh my God, he's really deteriorating quickly here.
Very direct. We have the basis for a ceasefire. He should move on it, and they should move on it now.
Is that chance for a ceasefire ruined after the assassination of Penny? Is the chance for a ceasefire
what's happening here?
Ruined after the assassination of Penny?
It's not helped. That's all I'm going to say right now.
So the assassination of the Hamas leader is not helpful. They're not going to get a deal. Israel doesn't want a deal. Israel does not want a deal, right? They wanted to blame it on her for saying anything against Israel, which she really didn't. I mean, she was mild in her criticism of this genocide. And now, of course, this thing with Iran. And so, they want Trump because Trump's going to give them they'll get a green light. Trump says something here.
I just can't do that. I can't do it. They want to do the telephone systems. They want to do lots of little things like that. We'd like to take over the telephone system of the United States. I'm sorry, I can't do that. But unlike her, I cannot be bought and I cannot be controlled. I have no interest in that.
That's just a lie. He's totally bought and controlled, right?
My only loyalty is to you.
This guy's got a shirt on that said "Miss to me," and it has Trump raising his fist. "Miss to me."
The people, and you know that. Well, I could have had such a nice, easy life. I could be at a nice place right now, relaxing, watching the waves break in. But I'd rather be right here in Harrisburg with you.
Harrisburg is where it's at. Now, all these Trumpers, now, I don't know how much of these people here are shills or, just paid, whatever it is, right? But the Trumpers who believe in this thing, this guy has this shirt on says "Missed me," and with Trump, right? All of them believe that there's some deep conspiracy behind the shooting. Like, they all have that belief. And even in the truth community, I know, like, now truthers are starting to realize this thing is fake. Weeks after. I'm not sure. Like, I don't watch other truthers, but that's what I get from a sense from some of the comments. I'm going to read a bunch of comments at the end of this thing. But, they all believe, because that's the way that the shooting was left, that there would be these conspiratorial, avenues.
People that built our country. You're the people that built our country. I mean, some people don't like saying that, but you
never surrendered.
You are indeed the people that built the country. We have, no matter where we go, we have the most incredible people. After lying to the country for years about Joe Biden's mental and physical condition, Kamala is now being given a personality makeover. Don't forget, 4 weeks ago, she was like considered the worst. Not smart, terrible, the worst vice president in
He's going to do an imitation. That's why I have this up.
history. He's the worst president we've ever had. But they were considered terrible. And all of a sudden, she's the new Margaret Thatcher. That happened, right? The great Margaret Thatcher. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, she was horrible.
But you're gonna learn little things like defund the police. That doesn't work, does it, huh? You're gonna learn. Because everything about Kamala Harris rollout, it's phony and it's fake. Did you see when President Obama and Michelle called? Did you see? Hello? Hello? Yes. Yes. Who is this?
Boo, boo, Obama, boo.
Oh, this is Michelle and Barack. Oh. So surprised to hear. They got 4 cameras in front. Oh, I'm so surprised. It's on speakerphone. Listen, we just want to congratulate you on destroying Joe Biden. I mean, on winning the... Hey, is Joe Biden gonna... Was that the phoniest phone call you've ever seen? How do you think, Dan? What do you think? Dan Muser, great congressman. What do you think? Was that a phony phone call? You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't get away. In your district, you wouldn't get away with it, would you? But she's a defund the police radical trying...
Him saying phony and his shooting. You pretend to get shot in the air, bro. Like, but these people will say, hey, yeah, that's true. That was a phony phone call. But then believe that this guy got shot in his ear, right? Trump's in Pennsylvania. What is he talking about? Like, he got away. It's much easier to get away with a phony phone call that's obviously phony and staged and political theater than it is to get away with the elaborate hoax that he pulled. And so with his fake ass, ear and blood and Ketchupgate and Band-Aid Gate. But anyways, later on in the day, so the rest of the stuff you just saw I got from Saturday, August 3rd in the morning. And then in the afternoon, I found this clip. YouTube recommended this clip, which let's get to that because this ties in here. But anyways, YouTube recommended this thing with Trump and him saying he's not going to be nice anymore. Or it's going to be, this is why he can't be nice, right? And right after that, I was editing the part of the video where Kamala is, the knee pads Harris part of the video where they say that she just won the nomination, right? And this is historic because she's the first, she didn't win anything. She didn't win an election. So you've seen all that and you've heard all that now. And I was talking about how, that when they spin these things, when they when they do the left-right paradigm stuff, the left-right cover, that this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about here, right? So Trump says something that's true at first, and there's things that are true in it, right? So there's things that are true that he's saying, but he's leaving out the biggest piece that he's doing the same shit, right?
When Nancy is saying, this is my fault, this is during the thing, because she didn't accept my offer. She said, this is my fault, I could have stopped this. Now she's trying to say, well, she didn't really mean that. No, these are bad people. They're trying to delete everything that she said over the last...
Now, Trump does everything, he doesn't play fair. He's never played fair in business. He's hurt people that have less money than him, take advantage of them, bully them. He's a bully. And, he deletes things. I mean, the fact that he wanted the porn star to sign an NDA, and he sent his fixer out to give her $130,000, right? Because he banged a porn star while he was married to the first lady, which we'll get into in a moment. And, he's a bad guy. He's always been a bad guy. He manipulates the truth. He's self-serving. And so everything he says about all these people is the same thing you say about himself. Because he does the same shit as they do. They are doing this. They're scrubbing Kamala right now.
Think of it, this is on Kamala, it's no different. Over the last 10 years, that's controversial or bad. It's like defund the police, the fact that she was given authority over the border, that, they're trying to say that under no circumstances was she even in charge of the border. And the fake news is trying to delete everything. Are you seeing what's going on? They're trying to delete everything. But it's the internet is wonderful in certain ways. We have every single copy of every article. But they're...
Never a surrenderer. So that's true. Like, they are trying to, I was just, there's a comment, I'll read that later, about Kamala's dad. Like, they don't even speak because she thinks she's such a sellout, which I'm going to cover her dad and her family a little bit more. But, and she doesn't talk about her great-grandfather owned all these slaves, all the things that I've covered the last couple of videos. But in all that, she's, they're trying to rebrand her because she wasn't likable before. They know that she wasn't sellable before. And that's true. What Trump's saying is true. But then he goes into this.
Trying to delete it. Under crazy Kamala's policies, when I got hit, everybody thought I was going to be a nice guy. And they thought I'd change. Remember, just before the Republican convention. And nobody thought I'd be there. It's not great to be there when your ear is slightly throbbing. Let's go to the convention, darling, to the First Lady. Let's go.
He calls her the First Lady. She has a name, it's Melania, right? And she hates you now because she's stuck with you, but she hates you. Like, her body language and everything shows she's completely cooled on him because he humiliated her with the porn star and all these other things, right? But this thing about his ear, like, it's just complete bullshit. We know that even if he was hit, which he wasn't, it's fake blood, but even if it was real, there's no damage to his ear, which I'll show you later on in this video, or whenever I show it. And probably this will go after that when I add this clip in here. But I've already done that in a clip. I haven't yet edited. But, we know it's fake, right? But even if it wasn't fake, which I say, it's... They faked putting a big bandage on. I already say these things somewhere in this video, right? And so it's performative. The whole thing is performative. So he's talking about them scrubbing Kamala's past, which Donald Trump has done himself. And then he talks about, this fake event that happened, which he's doing that for these people. He's deceiving these people who want to hear him and want to, they want somebody to say the things he's saying. But they believe in the things, but he doesn't, right? Because he's, just like the other side. And that's...
But I got there. Next day I left, right? And it was the greatest convention. And it was like a convention like no other.
There's never been a convention. It was beautiful. Like, the world should have ended on that day. It was such a beautiful day.
convention that we were all so proud of. But they all said, Trump is going to be a nice man now. He came close to death.
Yeah, that's the.
And I really agreed with that for about 8 hours or so. And then I realized they were trying to put me in prison for doing absolutely nothing wrong. They went to judges.
You did a lot wrong.
Who are crooked judges. They went to judges who are fake. They had prosecutors who are Democrat radical lefts. And always in areas where it's like 3% Republican or less. And I said, you know, these are bad people. So I was nice for about, what would you say, Dan, 3, 4, 5 hours. And then I said, these are bad people. We have to win this battle. And you know what? They're going to become nicer when we win. But we're going to have to win, I believe, to make them reasonable because they are crazy. They are crazy.
So this is a problem when you demonize people and call them evil when you're doing the same shit. And everybody is worse now because of the nature of our country, right? And this is the kind of politics where you say they're evil and they say you're evil, where you're both evil, right? So, like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? And this is the stuff people want to hear because people want to feel like they're good and their guy's the hero and he represents their beliefs. And the other side is bad and he represents the villain, the devil. And this is how people want to think. And there's no good outcome to that, right?
Under Kamala's policies, criminals, rapists, and vicious gang members are pouring in from South America.
Okay, so we know where this is going, right? Okay, so let's interrupt this for an Olympic update that it speaks for itself. Okay, before we get into more of the political stuff, this is a screenshot I took. So when the women's all-around final, the best women's gymnast in the world, after the first rotation means they all did one, whatever, activity. Whatever it is, gymnastics thing. Simone Biles was beating Rebecca Andre from Brazil by 0.6666, right? The number of 666s have come up during this Olympics. I'm not watching the Olympics, right? Like, I'm fast forwarding through some of the events. Like, I have no interest in lots of it. I used to watch a lot more of it. And it was better organized. It was easier to watch. Now they've got spread out all over the place. And they have it in real time, where they used to organize it for prime time. But in terms of, me watching the Olympics when I was a younger person, I'm only watching a little bit. And I'm fast forwarding through lots of it. And I found 5 or 6 references to 666. In the gymnastics, it comes up all the time. There's 666s in a row all the time, right? Because of the level of, they're carrying these points out to the third decimal. But, there it is. She ends up winning, of course, Simone Biles, and she gets the 666 approval here. So apparently it's the 33rd Olympics. One of my commenters said, I can't believe you didn't mention it. And I'm like, I didn't even know. I didn't even look at it. But yeah, so that's a big number, right? For a Freemasonic number, the 33 houses of Freemasonry. And my wife sent me this. That's Donald Trump Jr.'s girlfriend, the one who gave that, that epic talk, Kimberly Guilfoyle. I went to search it. How many times when I go to search something, I start typing Don Jr.'s girlfriend, and immediately I remember Kimberly. Like, it just the process of me typing in the name, I'll remember it. It's an interesting thing. But Kimberly Guilfoyle, who gave that bizarre talk, and just yikes. So here he is again with this school here.
So you're going back to Butler to finish.
He likes to go back to Butler.
Finish that speech, to give another speech.
I'm going back to, it's interesting to finish it. You say, and now to proceed
Continued,
from
to
where...
be continued.
Yeah, I mean,
Why? Why
it's
do
a
you...
very interesting way of looking at it.
I mean, I think that's, I think I've said...
Like, his ear is just right there. He's just, there's no, he didn't get shot here. Okay? Like, if it was if it was a graze, I'm going to read some comments of people who have ear stories about kids getting their ear messed up or, I mean, there's nothing there. Nothing happened to his ear. And this thing is fake, right? His part of it with the Band-Aid, like he didn't need a big Band-Aid, right? So let's say the bullet just, and it did. There's no, he didn't get shot. But let's say it just nicked him in the slightest way, or there's a fragment of something that hit him. And he had a slight cut. That was a real cut. Like, we know it's not, but let's just pretend. It didn't need that giant maxi pad that he brought to the convention. It didn't need the Band-Aid he wore. If he wore a Band-Aid for 2 weeks with no stitches, no real anything, he didn't need a trip to the hospital. And so the blood is fake, right? The whole thing is fake. But, we know at least part of it is guaranteed fake because we know that what's happened here doesn't represent what him milking the thing was, right? Him going to the hospital, him raising his fist, him being like, oh, whatever it was, right? It was a minor cut, nothing cut. He made such a big deal about it bleeding. So there's so many lies and deceptions that we know for a fact. Like, let's say something did hit him and he was bleeding. We know that he exaggerated the crap out of this and still is, and is milking it, right? Let's say a bullet actually hit him. He still lied about, he didn't need a Band-Aid that big, he didn't need a bandage that big, he didn't need to make that big a deal about it because it's a nothing. There's nothing here.
I think I've said that was a good idea. It's a good idea. Why?
I think it's important symbolically. I don't think we should.
There's nothing here. Look, there is nothing freaking here. He did not, there's no scarring, there's no anything.
Be stopped by somebody that has severe mental problems or whatever his problem was.
You're going to do rallies outside.
So you're agreeing with the official story. You're not saying there's any kind of conspiracy here. Then there's this.
It's a great honor to be with President El-Sisi, who's a friend of mine for now a long time, it seems, right? From even before the campaign. We met during the campaign, a little before the campaign, and so we got along right away. I didn't actually ask for an endorsement, but I think if I would have asked, I might have gotten it.
From the start of his presidency, Donald Trump heaped praise on Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, a man who just a few years earlier led the country's military to overthrow the democratically elected president from power. During one G7 summit trip, he even referred to Sisi as his, quote, favorite dictator. And while Trump may not have asked for Sisi's endorsement during his 2016 presidential campaign, bombshell reporting from the Washington Post reveals new details about one of the most closely held and secretive federal investigations into something else Sisi may have provided Trump.
Anyways, just to make, let's skip the Joy Reid part here. But the Washington Post is reporting $10 million cash withdrawal drove secret probe into whether Trump took money from Egypt. Now, Trump will take money from, he will. Trump will take money from the devil, and, they all have to make a deal with the devil anyway. But clearly, this is something he would do. And he bankrolled, he monetized his presidency, we noticed. Jared and Ivanka walked away with $2 billion from the Saudis. I mean, it's just how it is, right? And so these are legitimate allegations because we know if the guy offered Trump money, he'd take it. Like, Trump's never going to say no to money or any of these things, right? Potential Harris VP Josh Shapiro raising eyebrows for shockingly similar cadence to Obama. It's creepy. Now, Kamala's doing the same thing, right? But this is Joshua Shapiro. I believe he's a Jewish guy. What does it say here? He's Pennsylvania governor. The impression already being mocked on late-night talk shows is especially curious given the former president cut his teeth as a community organizer in the south side of Chicago, while Shapiro is a white Jew from Kansas City, Missouri, who went to Hebrew day school and served as a volunteer in the Israeli Defense Force. So this guy is in a part of the IDF. I mean, he's really into this thing. Her husband is, of course, Jewish. And Israel's going to be a big player in this, whatever happens next, right? I've heard this guy speaking already. He's from Missouri, but somehow made it get elected as governor of Pennsylvania, a swing state. And he and Kamala are both copying this guy's speech patterns.
You could not have a clear contrast between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. You deserve better than somebody who's just trying to make a quick buck. Somebody willing to say anything to get attention. You deserve somebody who knows you.
And let me tell you something. He's pretty afraid. Y'all see, he's backing out of the debate now. He's afraid to stand toe-to-toe with our vice president.
You deserve somebody who stood side by side with you. Somebody who will work every day and fight for you. Somebody who's actually from Pennsylvania.
And you know why that is? It's not just because she's a skilled debater. It's not just because she's got the right positions on the issues that matter most to the good people of Pennsylvania and this country. It's because he can't run away from his record any longer.
You deserve somebody like John Fetterman.
That was some great moments the New York Post put together here. Desperate Don ditches debate, scurries off to Fox. And so they're saying, so this is what's happened here.
Overnight, former president and GOP nominee Donald Trump announces he is ready to go head-to-head with Vice President Kamala Harris. But this doesn't mean it's set in stone. Trump made the announcement just before midnight last night in a post on Truth Social. The Fox debate would take place in Pennsylvania in front of a live audience. But so far, no exact location has been provided. So it's unclear if Vice President Kamala Harris has accepted the invitation from Fox News or if she would agree to the new debate terms. Now, this comes just hours after the Democratic National Committee.
Okay, so what he said was he's in litigation with ABC and George, whatever he calls him, Stephanopoulos. And he doesn't want to debate because he holds all the cards now because he's the front runner. Before, he wanted Biden out there on the debate stage because he knew Biden would crumble. But now he doesn't want to give her any, and he feels like it'll be unfair, which it would be. I don't know why he would agree to a debate on ABC anyways, but it's going to be, they agree with her version of reality, and they agree with Biden's version, right, where they're going to fact check him, and his version, is not much more accurate, but at least it's different, and so, it's smart for him to do this. He's agreed to a debate. It'll be on Fox, which will favor him. And then she's going to have to agree to Fox, which she's not going to do, right? So this is what he said. I've agreed with Fox News debate Kamala Harris on Wednesday, September 4th. The debate was previously scheduled against Sleepy Joe Biden on ABC, which was terminated in that Biden will no longer be a participant. And I am in litigation against ABC and Network and George Slopadopoulos, there it is, thereby creating a conflict of interest. The Fox News debate will be held in the greater Commonwealth of Pennsylvania at a site in an area to be determined. The moderators of the debate will be Brett Baer and Martha McCallum, and the rules will be similar to the rules of my debate with Sleepy Joe, who has been treated horribly by his party, but with a full arena audience. And so we'll see what she does with this, but they're saying that he's running away from the debate, right? Well, that is clearly not the case. Like he's in a position where a debate could only probably hurt him at this point because she's still trying to win over the African-American vote, and she has a long way to go. Like I said, the people who are going to make or break this election are these white people in these, these swing states that are disgruntled, who are blue-collar workers. And, someone like Joe Biden, he has his, he's a union guy, but not really, but that's how he bills himself. He's from Scranton, the stuff that he says. And they identified with him, right? They're more willing to vote for him than they would be to vote for her. And they're kind of pissed at him because he didn't deliver on his promises. So all these people who are suffering from inflation, and a lot of them are poor white people in these swing states, she's got to win their vote. Like she's got to win their vote back. And, Hillary didn't get their vote, and she's not going to get their vote. Like they liked Hillary more than they like her. There's, these people might be, I don't want to say necessarily racist, but racially biased. And white people are going to vote for white people, white men, these things, right? So as a woman and a woman of color, she has a lot of ground to, make up with them. And she's having rappers come to her. It's not going to win them over, right? So I don't see how she can win based in the numbers as they are now. And like they're just going to go down as people get to know her, right? which, you know, isn't a good thing because I think they're using Trump as a way to destroy I mean, they're going to blame it all on Trump, right? Breaking $2.9 trillion wipeout of stocks this morning due to the fears of global recession. The worst day since 2020 COVID crash. That was yesterday, August 2nd. And my wife sent me this. So she's joined the Black Eye Club.
I've been in so many hotels in so many countries that I got up in the middle of the night to pee and didn't know where I was and smacked my face on the marble. No, nobody did anything to
Okay, what does that mean, smacked your face on the marble? Because why didn't it hit your nose or your chin? You know, you have parts of your face. Here's the eye. Like, how did it hit your eye, right? You mean you fell down and hit the marble floor? The marble is on the wall. You walked into the wall. Like, you know, with all these celebrities and politicians that get to join the Black Eye Club, right? Speaking of gatekeepers and handlers.
me. And yes, I'm just fine and I'm having a great time and I'm being welcomed very beautifully on my trip everywhere that I've gone. And I'm having just the greatest time.
Are you having a great time?
And it's getting better.
Boom.
But it really is a good looking shiner.
Like, that's, you know, a flat surface doesn't do that. You know, I mean, you'd have to.
You should see what I did to that marble floor.
Yeah, nothing.
Thanks so much for caring about me. I care about you too.
Yeah, we do. We care so much about you, Sharon. She's, you know, brain damage. She's got brain damage. So these videos develop over days, right? And sometimes, like at the last minute, something will drop and I'll have a hard time understanding where to stick it into the video. But I did some extra research on a guy, Josh Shapiro, Governor Josh Shapiro from the great state of Pennsylvania. And they call him Genocide Josh. The young liberal people who are protesting Israel's genocide. And there's lots of disturbing things about him. I was searching to see whether he and Dougie Fresh have dual citizenship, which I couldn't find, but if they don't have it, they're so supportive of Israel. You'll see it in a moment. I'm not going to talk about this twice. But I'm going to cover that in a second. But first, Dougie Fresh got busy, and he had a scandal. He now has a scandal on his hand. He cheated on his first wife, impregnated. Well, you'll see that as well. You'll see that in a moment. And so I want to talk about Israel here. You know, there's lots of people in the truth community that think the Jews are responsible for everything bad. And I always say to them, well, there's lots of things in our society that have been invented by Jewish people, or Jewish people have a strong role to play in it. And you like those things, right? You enjoy those things that are part of your life. You don't want to give those things up. But you want to blame the Jews for everything else, right? And so, you know, I don't play any of that stuff here, Jewish hate, any of these things, right? Anti-Semitism, all this stuff like that. But Israel is committing a genocide against the Palestinian people. That's one. And two, Israel has an overwhelmingly strong hold on the American politicians. That's two. It's been well documented. Everybody knows it. They have one of the strongest foreign lobby group, and we do a lot of support of Israel. And, you know, Israel is going to play a key part. It looks like Israel is going to play a key part in the collapse of the civilization in terms of World War III and the rest of it, right? And all the stuff that's going on with Israel now that's involving Iran and the rest of it. And so that's why I'm covering this. And the influence, you know, of course, Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is Jewish, and also he bought 666 Park Avenue. And Jared Kushner, if he isn't the Antichrist, he should be. You know, like, he's just really bad. He doesn't seem to be much involved with Trump's presidency, but he might come back in later, who knows. But he was a big part of Trump's first presidency. And Trump has given a green light to Israel. And he said Israel is the aggressor, but we need to let them do whatever it takes to finish the job. And so Trump's just going to allow them to do whatever. So that's bad. Kennedy is even worse on Israel. He blames the Palestinian people for everything. He talks about Israel as the number one democracy and an example for the whole world and how great they are and how caring they are, and they're just the best. And so that's Kennedy's. I mean, Kennedy's the worst, even worse than Trump. And Kamala, who's, because of they want the young people vote, the young college people, vote. And, her and Joe Biden have to walk the line of supporting Israel, but then making it sound like they're compassionate toward the Palestinian people, which is a line that Israel already has condemned her, or not condemned, but gave her pushback about. And so with her having a vice president who was a volunteer member of the IDF, Israeli Defense Force, and, all the stuff that's involved with that, and how, he's just very pro-Jewish. Her husband's Jewish. She celebrates Jewish holidays. And so it seems like Israel's going to get whatever they want from any of these three presidents. And, Kamala's stuff has been hidden until now, or at least it's been out there and I didn't know about it. But I do now, and soon you will as well. Okay, so one of my viewers just sent me this. I was almost done with this video, editing it. So it's like 4:27 now in the afternoon. I'll be done with this probably by 5:30. Kamala Harris' husband, Dougie Emhoff, Dougie Fresh, admits to cheating on his first wife after a bombshell report he impregnated his nanny. So kaboom. So this is his nanny here when she was younger. And that's his little dude there. And she also taught in their exclusive private school. So he banged her, got her pregnant. His wife divorced him, and he ended up with this prize right here. The second gentleman reported straight for then-wife Kirsten over a decade and a half ago with a blonde nanny, Najin Naylor, who taught at a private school. And I'm going to get into the next vice president's like his whole stuff and his connection with Israel and Dougie Fresh's connection with Israel. That's going to be a good lead into that. I've already done the other stuff. During my first marriage, Kirsten and I went through some tough times. On account of my actions, I took responsibility. In the years since, we worked through things as a family and come out stronger on the other side. Well, do you have a relationship with the daughter, or did she get an abortion? What happened? So here's the woman now. That's what I guess she looks like. Here she is here, I guess. And I don't know. But does she have a daughter, right? Like, does she, or a kid of any type? Like, does she keep the baby if she have an abortion? So that's the question. Did he Hunter Biden it? Does he have a relationship with that child? Has that child ever met Kamala, right? So a lot of unanswered questions. And all you Trumpers out there who are like, oh my God, he's so horrible. Trump cheated on all of his wives. He stuck his freaking mushroom into Stormy Daniels and then went home to his man. And, a porn star, right? They're all immoral as F, right? Like, there's nothing more degrading and more scummy than banging your kid's nanny. It's just your kids have a relationship with that person, all these things. But he impregnated her, so it was a long-term thing. And who knows what's going on with these people, right? They're all so immoral. They're also, just absolutely scummy. Like, you just can't even think about the bad decisions they make, and they just make these things as part of what they consider life. And him saying we came out stronger on the other side, you didn't come out stronger. Like you don't come out stronger for that. You're divorced, and your kids grew up, and their kids are screwed up, and then you married Kamala frickin' Harris, right? And so this is who they are. And Trump is as bad or worse. And so there's and Kennedy, he had 36 affairs in 1 year, and his wife committed suicide. So, like, whatever you want to say about any of them, this is what they do. This is who they are. This is what happens when you get money and power. It shows you when you get these positions of wealth and fame, right? Kamala was a 30-year-old woman. She probably pursued this guy, Brown, I think his name is. I forgot already. And she went after the guy, or he went after her, who knows. She had an affair with him, 10 years. He was getting out of a marriage. and he started her political career. If she didn't do that, she wouldn't be running for president. Like that's who she is. Trump, of course, made all these scummy deals with scummy people. I mean, all these people are horrible people, right? All these wealthy, rich, powerful people are horrible people. And even if they didn't start out that way, the people around them have all these tendencies and characteristics, and they get sucked into it one way or another. Even if they don't engage in it themselves, which they all do, they end up covering for other people and seeing all these things done, and makes them into horrible people too. And so that's the first piece. And now let's get into the fact that these guys are, their loyalties to America. So these are supposed to be people who are fighting for America, but they have divided loyalties because they also have strong loyalty to Israel, maybe even stronger, probably even stronger. So I was talking about this with my wife because there's a lot of dual citizens who are citizens of Israel and America. Some of them are senators, people like Chuck Schumer, I believe, a bunch of people. There's a list of them, right? But there are people who have joint citizenship with this country and Israel. And even if they don't have that, they're very much connected to Israel. So I wanted to see if this guy, Josh Shapiro, has dual citizenship. And I couldn't find the answer anywhere. But he did have a volunteer role with the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, which of course is the aggressor in most, they're not defenders, they're aggressors. But then I found this, remarks by President Biden about the second gentleman, Douglas Emhoff, at the roundtable with Jewish community leaders. And I was wondering if Doug Emhoff, Dougie Fresh, was a dual citizen. And this thing came up. Now, it doesn't say he's a dual citizen, but look at what it says here. This is Joe Biden speaking. Now, I know many of you are personally impacted by what's happened in Israel. There are thousands of dual citizens. Maybe some of your relatives are there. And Doug and I want to thank you all for the work you've done on behalf of our administration to combat anti-Semitism. So she's married to this guy, and maybe her vice president, the leading candidate to be her vice president, possibly both could have dual citizenship. But either way, they have loyalties to Israel that probably exceed their loyalties to America. Josh Shapiro, Pennsylvania governor, this is from Jerusalem Post, may be the first U.S. Jewish president. I grew up in a kosher home, went to shul, and went to Jewish school, met my wife. I keep a kosher home, and I always home on Friday night for Shabbat dinner with my family. And so his high school sweetheart at the Jake M. Barak Hebrew Academy, and he sent their 4 children to the same Jewish school. And so he is, very, there's stuff here somewhere about him. I guess I covered that before, where he was volunteered for the IMF. But the guy is, as far as I can tell, he's probably a dual citizen. And if he isn't, he's clearly, maybe more patriotic towards Israel than he is. Again, whatever you believe God is from, like your religious beliefs, when you're a real religious person, you're a real divine person, they usurp your feelings for your government. Like I am much more concerned about my relationship with God and what God wants me to do than what my government wants me to do and what my culture wants me to do, right? And he seems to be, very, very into being Jewish, right? Times of Israel. Speculation mounts in Harris tapped Pennsylvania Jewish Governor Shapiro as running mate. Shapiro emphasized Jewish heritage, have been outspoken support of Israel, criticized anti-Semitism on college campuses, and called Netanyahu one of the worst leaders of all time. Well, that's going to get complicated. But pro-Palestinian anti-Israeli activists pushed back on Shapiro due to his outspoken support for Israel and criticism of anti-Semitism on campuses protests, dubbing him Genocide Josh. He's very anti-Palestinian. Josh Shapiro seeks to downplay his time as IDF volunteer after college op-ed resurfaces. So this is the big one here. While he was in high school, Josh Shapiro was required to do service project, which he and several classmates completed through a program. They took them to some kibbutz in Israel, where he worked on a farm at a fishery. The program also included volunteering on service projects on the Israeli army base. At no time was he engaged in any military activities. So then he wrote an op-ed, despite my skepticism as a Jew and a past volunteer in Israeli army, I strongly hope and pray that this peace plan will be successful. So he was a volunteer person in the Israeli army. So, think about that. While Shapiro's Jewish roots are well established, including his enrollment at this Akiba Hebrew Academy in Philadelphia, it says here, he wrote this here, he appeared to be the first revelation of such direct ties to the IDF. Palestinians will never coexist peacefully, Shapiro wrote in the op-ed titled, Peace Not Possible. So he doesn't believe that the Palestinians are ever going to be peaceful and that the Jews are going to have to wipe them out. So this is his past, and he's changed his tune since then. But you understand this. They do not have the capabilities to establish their own homeland and make it successful even with the aid of Israel and the United States. They are too battle-minded to be able to establish a peaceful homeland of their own as than 20-year-old. This is what they train people to believe in the IDF. And so this is bad for him, right? And they've called him, of course, Genocide Josh. He said, I was 20 when I wrote that. But the problem is that, this is bad on a couple different levels. Okay, I'm switching over to voiceover here. I want to wrap this one up, but also get into some comments here. And so this is bad for the obvious reasons, right? So he was in high school, and the high school he went to said, you have to do a community service project. And that community service project involved him supporting the Israeli Defense Force, one of the most aggressive, abusive organizations in the world. The way that they, it's an apartheid state. And you hear what happens to these Palestinian people, the civilians. There's videos, there's Jewish people that go in and take videos of the way these Palestinian people were being treated before this thing in Gaza. And they were constantly keeping these people down, withholding water, electricity. I mean, they were treated like, in these sort of concentration camps, right? I mean, and so if your one big claim to fame is you're constantly playing the victim, because the way you were treated in World War II as a group of people, and then you go around and treat another group of people. The Palestinian people, before it was partitioned, Palestine was partitioned as half Israel and half Palestine, and the Israelis got the best land, and they just started to create more land. They started to grab more land because the Palestinian people don't have an army. And so it's a very abusive situation. And this MNFer, instead of volunteering for something else, he went and volunteered to support the Israeli army. And he came out with the same sort of indoctrination that the Palestinian people were incapable of ruling themselves. They're incapable of building their own state. And the only thing was that Israel absorbs them and they become part of Israel, right? That's been the whole, and that's what all these people believe. But he's supposed to be an American citizen, but he goes to this school in America that he has to go to Israel to do some community service project. So where does his loyalties lie? He does all these things, he's very religious, and, he's more loyal to Israel. And he's, one heartbeat away from becoming president of America, maybe a dual Israeli citizen who's also, if he becomes her vice president, which he's supposed to be at the top of the list, and again, he's now known as Genocide Josh, so that can't help him. But if he ends up becoming the vice president, he could be the first Israeli president that's, more loyal to Israel. I mean, a lot of them are, so whatever. So that's that. The whole thing's a mess, and, we'll see how that all plays out. But it ain't good. And, Trump is going to give them a green light anyway. Okay, so let me get into some of the comments. This one just came in today. Kamala's father doesn't like her Let me make this bigger here. Kamala's father doesn't like her stereotypical pandering, so much so I don't think that they speak to each other. And so I didn't even know, but I guess, they're not there, right? Like, where are they, his family? Have you ever seen his mom or his dad? supporting Kamala Harris. So there's that. Then there's some more stuff here. This person says, you reject the true Jesus Christ. I wasn't really going to read this one for this one, but I guess I will. You reject the true Jesus Christ. Oh, man, so much truth, but most important part you reject, the spirit and the blood, Leviticus 17:11. And only Jesus has a perfect sinless spirit. That's why his blood is the only way our spirit is made perfect. Through him, only one lay. God bless. Yeah, because you bought into the Bible. Just because the Bible says it doesn't mean it's true. Like you've been indoctrinated into this system, right? I mean, the stuff that I do, the Sajmark system, some of it's been proven to me through practical experience, but not all of it, right? And I can say I can believe it because I trust the 3 first masters of the system, not the current guy who's has turned into a, whatever he is. But in terms of the experiences I've had, I can say, yeah, that it works. It works. It 100% has worked in numerous ways and helped me become a better person and helped me to deepen my connection to God. But that's just through my experience. It's not because they said it and I believed it. It's because I, did the system. There's a practice, and you go on a spiritual journey, and you can observe the spiritual journey, and I've observed some of it. Maybe I haven't seen all of it. I certainly haven't seen all of it. I haven't experienced all the things that they say in the teachings, but the teachings are much more sophisticated than they are in the Bible. And they're about your spiritual journey and you going on that spiritual journey. But we're all children of God, right? There's a prayer, Our Father, in the Catholic tradition. Jesus referred to God as our Father, not his Father. So that thing about him being the Son of God is just bullshit. I want to come back to that comment. I want to talk about monotheism versus polytheism, all these things. But I want to do that in a separate video because this is more about Trumper stuff. This person says that was about the loving yourself. Then this person said, bro, you're losing yourself. One channel focus. Most of us don't have 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours a day to sit around listening to you. You need to get your message out in 30 minutes or less so that we can listen to you and go about our day. I love you. I know you don't need to get but I know you need to get your format down. I had about 8 to 10 comments that said, oh my God, a 4-hour video I'm really happy about. There's plenty of people who listen to the whole videos. There's plenty of people who listen to every minute of the Journey series. I couldn't do it personally. I'm not a fan of my own show. I don't like to listen to my stuff. I'm tired of listening to my own stuff, the editing portion. I stopped listening to the voiceovers because I had to cut out some of the, it takes a lot of my time as well. But I address everything thoroughly, and there's multiple points that have to be made. And things have to be repeated because you're hearing the same bullshit and same lies over and over again. Repetition's necessary for human beings. But aside from that, I'm not losing my audience, I'm gaining it. My audience is growing now all of a sudden. And certainly the view count is up as well as the watch time. And so you don't like it. But, you don't have to listen to all the video. You can cherry pick it. You can listen to the parts you want. You can listen to some of it. People are welcome to listen as much as they want or not at all, right? And so this is the format I have to go with. And to keep my channel going, I need to make long videos. If I made short little videos, I wouldn't be able to generate enough income to, whatever it is. And I'm not appealing to the, my videos are really not so much for the youthful people who won't understand me anyway, right? We're almost like a different species at this point because they've been raised so differently. But anyways, that's that. Okay, let's move on to the next comment here. This person said, you call BS on Trump from the moment one of the Ketchupgate. You trump all the other commenters online, Paul. We see and appreciate you. Well, I'm surprised that people aren't, This person said, TDS full throttle, baby. That's because that's how they roll. How the hell do you know This is false prophet Trump embraces the chosen one part, Band-Aid Gate, and all these things. That video. How the hell do you know? Were you there? Well, how the hell do you know that Trump's even alive if you're not there either, right? How do you know it's not all CGI? How do you know he's even a person? And so, so if you're going that route, Trump's ear is building 7, which I thought was a good comment. And this person says, this is about the bloody ear. This person says, when my son was 2, he was climbing onto the coffee table, fell off and cut through his ear at the top. There was blood everywhere. The cut was huge. His ear was glued together and held in one place with steri strips at the hospital. No massive bandage. The strips were removed by me after 2 weeks. I was told, he's so active, just keep them on in case of any more stupid accident. There's a tiny red scar there now. I don't even see a scar on Trump. A bandage is totally unnecessary and cumbersome. Would get wet when washing the hair and end up looking grubby. Well, I mean, he definitely exaggerated that part. We know that for sure. I mean, we know it's fake, but he, there's nothing there. His own people said there's no stitches, and they exaggerated the size of the cut, and the exaggeration was 2 centimeters. It's called the miracles. Miracles are hard to believe. God is perfection, so when he intervenes, it will look perfect, like a miracle. False prophet Trump embraces the chosen one part and Band-Aid Gate. Same video. And I just want to end with that. Like, that's just, like, think how ridiculous this person is. I mean, most of you guys see it. The majority of people agree with me about the Band-Aid Gate, the majority of people who are watching my videos. And that's, like 10,000 people, like just here watching that. So there's lots of people out there who know that it's bullshit. And lots more are coming to that realization. There's no miracle here, obviously, but the miracle here, like someone else, there was some other meme about the miracle here. But the miracle would have to include him bleeding and being able to pump his fist so that he could act like a WWE wrestler. When a miracle could have been the snipers took the guy out. I mean, the thing could have been prevented if the snipers took the guy out. If anybody had done their job in terms of Secret Service, this never would have been a real thing. But it wasn't a real thing, so, there's no need for a miracle. It was staged completely. And if you're like that far gone that you believe that Trump's ear was saved by a miracle, I mean, like, you were actually buying into that shit. Like, it's just, nothing about God and nothing about politics and nothing about truth, and you're just following this really horrible person who's duping you in every possible way and claiming that you love him so much, that everybody loves him so much, and he knows he's lying to you. Like, he knows he's deceiving you. And just like all of his other lovers, he'll end up cheating on you the same way. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.